Hi guys, we're in a new build just out of the shop. This happens to be an LT1 8-speed in a later model JK. And for my initial test drive, I'm just gonna drive it around the streets for a little while and look at the big stuff. It's a pretty warm day and I want to make sure my air conditioning is working. I want to test all the different modes on the high-back controller. And I will say in the later model controllers, if your center knob, this one here, doesn't control the temperature accurately, you may have to do a module reset, and that will reset all the mode doors, and that way you'll have a more accurate temperature output of your outlets. So I want to see if there's any warning lights on the dash. You can see the check engine lights on. I've already scanned that, and it's just a PO315 crankshaft variation not learned. I did a video on that a while ago, and I'm going to do another video on it. It's not saying anything is wrong. It's just a reminder. It's a nuisance code that when you put a new module in a vehicle, you have to learn the crankshaft variation, which is essentially the computer taking a picture of the crankshaft pattern so it can use it for comparative purposes for misfire detection. Now you can see the other light is the tire pressure monitoring system, and that could be a couple of things. It could be that this customer had the tire pressure monitors removed, which is the most common reason, and of course you can turn it off with like an AEV ProCal. But let's scroll through here and look at the data. Yeah, you'll see that it isn't indicating any tire pressure. So most likely the sensors have been removed. In some situations, if the modules have been disconnected for a while or they get some kind of a glitch, the vehicle configuration can change, and that's something we'll talk about in another video. This is peculiar to Chryslers, where you have to go back in and do a network or a vehicle reconfiguration, and it basically tells all the modules to talk to each other again, because if the tire pressure monitoring system module isn't configured right for the vehicle, then it may display just like this. But I think in this vehicle it is the monitors were removed. I'm going to listen for any odd noises, any odd shifting. Now this is an 8-speed and it's shifting awesome, so we got no worries there. And this is right out of the box. This is like an 18 or a 19 transmission. We haven't done any tuning to it, and it's shifting beautiful. We do have an Atlas in this, so I'm gonna take it off-road obviously and run it through its gears, and we'll have an Atlas video coming up. As I mentioned previously, Steve and Mike from Advance came out a SEMA or two ago, and they came by and they actually showed us how to shift the Atlas most accurately, and I buried that video away. So we're going to try to get them to come back out and reshoot that with us, although I might do my own video on that. You want to try your turn signals. A lot of guys have LED lights and it'll put the signal into a fast mode. There's our right. That seems good. There's our left. Up. See how the left side now is blinking fast? That probably means we got a bulb out, so we'll have to check that. We're going to check the radio, make sure everything works as it should. I've seen these things boot up as Chrysler Pacificas and other crazy things. Check our steering wheel controls. Check our volume control.
I appreciate the open dialogue.
All seems to be working good. I'm listening for any strange noises in the engine, transmission, suspension, etc. This one seems to be pretty solid. Don't hear anything. Checking the steering wheel to see if it's straight. Now this one's off a little bit, so we're going to make an attempt to straighten that for the customer. Of course, we're going to check our cruise control, and it is operational on this one. I'm checking the cooling fan operation, and the Camaro SS fan is so quiet, it's really hard to hear it. You got to roll the window down practically to hear it, even on this warm day with the air conditioning on. Now I'm going to drive it around quite a bit. I'm even going to put gas in it. If everything is good, then I'm going to go on my initial test drive on the mountain, and you guys watch that all the time. And then I'll normally do a second test drive after we do our inspection from the first test drive. And then if everything is good, then it's ready to ship. So the off-road test drive is really going to ring things out. We're going to try this Atlas transfer case. We're going to put the cooling system through its paces, as well as the high-vac controller. We're going to make sure that all the dash functions work. In fact, we can scroll through that right now. Vehicle info, system warning, check tire pressure monitoring system, left turn signals out. So we know that already. It's really nice to be back in an LT with a 8-speed. It really moves the weight of these Jeeps so effortlessly that it just doesn't feel like anything else. You'll notice we're running about 217 degrees. And that's pretty typical and normal. We're almost at 100 degrees out today. Guys will call me and they'll say, I'm running cooler with the air conditioning on than with the air conditioning off. What's going on? Well, the fan has to turn on in order to lower the condenser pressure. So when it does, the radiator gets some airflow through it. GM doesn't turn on the cooling fan, at least it doesn't wind it up, till about 226 degrees. And that might surprise a lot of you guys. However, that is normal operating temperature. You can run from 205 to 235. That's completely normal. It's not like the old days where you got to run 185, 190. I had a guy panicking up in northern Nevada. He was running at 212 degrees. Now he's used to driving an older car that you want to see under 210. But no, this is perfectly normal for an LS. Some guys want us to wind the fan up earlier to keep the engine cooler, and we can do that, but it's not required. Now you'll see as soon as we get moving, the temp starts to come down, and that's a very important point. We've done several builds lately where the grill is just blocked. You got KC daylighters, you got light bars, you got license plates, you name it. I've seen them in front of the grill. And you don't want to do that, because when you get moving, you want to see that temperature start to come down. You don't want the fan to have to wind up to keep the temps down. I had one recently that the brakes had been upgraded and they went with a oversized caliper but had a stock master cylinder, and the pedal was dropping to the floor. It was very unnerving. So we ended up upgrading it to a JK booster. Now this guy's obviously got the Super S-Pod thing up here, so we'll make sure that we check all those functions, the lockers, the compressor, the lights, etc. At the looks of this windshield, it looks like he might have metal cloak suspension, which is always comforting for me because when I take it off-road, it's going to ride nice. I've had some requests to, hey, can you listen for a creak or a rattle, or I've got this rattle in my door. I had one recently, a guy said that he had a rattle in his door and he wanted me to check it out off-road. And what it turned out to be was this add-on grip where it just wasn't tight. We tightened it down and his rattle went away. So that's what I do in this initial test drive. Just kind of shake it out. Then we're going to take it to the mountain, and you're going to see this Jeep on the mountain. Red and black Jeep with bed lining for paint. And we got a bunch more coming up.